But we do welcome all of you coming in tonight. This is important for us all for this evening to be able to learn about what's going on with our democracy. In essence, this is truly grassroots democracy when it comes down to it, of being able to have an opportunity to listen to people and get some ideas about what's going on. So I'm going to formally call our meeting to order at this point. We normally start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I usually have a flag in the background. I will have to apologize for not having that, but let's do the Pledge of Allegiance anyway on that. And if those are able to stand, go ahead and do so. Hand over the heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be aware that we are a membership organization of Woodland Hills. We've been around since 1985. We look at developments basically that are going on in the San Fernando Valley, especially in the Woodland Hills area, to make sure that the developments are doing well and are up to snuff, and making sure that it's going to have a good positive effect upon our health, safety, and welfare. We're not against development. In fact, we actually like good developments. If it's going to be an upgrade to our community, we're quite interested. If it's not an upgrade to the community, well, you're going to have to talk to us about that. So that's where we are. I've been doing that for a long period of time, and we'll continue to do so. Our membership is $25 a month for the entire household. We appreciate your membership. It helps us to be able to let our politicians, whether they be in state, federal, or local, that we're around. The larger numbers that we have, the more they're going to listen to us. So we appreciate your membership. You can go over to our website, WHHO.com. It's a place there for you to fill it out. You don't have to use PayPal. You can use regular credit card for that too. But we deeply would enjoy having you with us. I'm Johnny Walker. I'm your president for the Woodland Hills Homeowners Organization, and proud to be so. I see Dennis DiBiase is here with us. He's one of our vice presidents. Marty Lipkin is also here. He's one of our vice presidents as well. Our treasurer is Nancy Porter. And our secretary is Shelley Schwartz. She is here with us as well. Ari Cohn is one of our board members. He's online with us. Colleen Schwab is one of our board members and online with us. And so is Scott Silverstein, one of our board members, and online with us too. So there we are.
Sean, one thing. You said $25 a month. It's $25 a year.
Oh, did I say a month? Well, let's make it a month, then we'll get some more money on it.
I thought I was getting it.
Do I hear a motion? All right, no motion. I stand corrected once again by Scott Silverstein on many occasions, which he enjoys doing. Thank you, Scott. It is $25 a year for the entire household. Thank you for that, Scott. I thought I was going to get some more revenue in here, but there we are. Well, tonight we're real pleased to have candidates for Council District 3 with us, which is the one that basically covers over here in the Woodland Hills area and goes into Winnetka and some of the other areas too. It's a fairly large district as well. We're pleased to have with us Christopher Celona. We also have Timothy Gaspar, and we have Barri Worth Girvan with us as well, who are the candidates who have been qualified at this point. I've mentioned them in the name, and they have come up in the flyers we've had. I want you to know that that is the position I understand that they will appear on the ballot. So I'm not trying to put one in front of the other for any particular reason, but rather that's what has been determined. That's how they're supposed to appear on the ballot issues. Well, what is this all about for tonight? It's interesting. I consider this to be an employment interview. This is where we live. This is our home. And we're looking for some people to come in and to be hired to take care of our home. And that's what it really amounts to. We're going to offer you guys a salary and some perks. You'll be able to have this contract for 4 years. You may be able to extend it for 2 more terms after that for a total of 12 years if you do a good job with it. That'll take us up to 2038 at that point. It's a long way off in the future. But nonetheless, we're going to offer you $244,729 a year, plus benefits. That includes health, dental, vision. We're going to contribute to a pension fund for you. We're going to give you an automobile, either a car, or we're going to give you an allowance for that. We're going to give you expense reimbursement. We're going to provide you with an office, and we're going to give you a staff at that point. The real figures that will come to you is probably somewhere between about $250,000 to $280,000 a year for this contract, if you're able to be employed by us. And the way we're going to employ you is to vote. And all the people that are out here that are in this community will decide whether or not you're going to be the ones that we're going to select to help us with our home and to taking care of the place where we live. And that's going to require some expectations that we have and some responsibilities that each of you will have too. We expect loyalty and accountability for things that you end up doing, especially to our community and to our individuals that are here. We want you to be a good, strong advocate for us, to speak up on our behalf. We want you to always be honest with us. Let us know what things are going on, what's happening, what things you know, what things you don't know, especially. We want you to be good stewards of all the funds that are given to you as to where those monies are going to be allocated to and what they're going to be used for. We also want you to keep updated with the community, know what's going on, know what the community issues are so they can be resolved. So that's where we are with it. I consider this to be looking to see who's going to be employed. One of you, either in June or November, will be employed by us. And we're looking for something serious from you as far as taking care of it. This is a big, big responsibility. Largest city, second largest city in the United States. As some of you may know, I was working at one point to turn the valley into its own city. It would have been the sixth largest city in the United States. We have a large community that's out here in Woodland Hills, and we need to make sure that it's properly taken care of. So keep those things in mind. We are looking to see who you are. We want to know what your ideas are. We want to know what your affiliations are. Want to know who you're talking to, who's supporting you, why they're supporting you. We want to know what your plans are. And as I mentioned to you before we started up at this point in time, we don't want any kind of platitudes on things. We want some details. We want plans. We want to know what you know and what you don't know. If you don't know something, just tell us you don't know. That's probably more important than you trying to BS with us, because we'll see through it. And that's going to be a mark against you. So let us know about those things that we need to know about, and make sure that we are on the same page with that. Also, for those that are listening, I want you to understand they have not been provided with any of these questions. I'm sure they know the areas. They haven't been told the areas that we're going to talk about. The only thing they know is I'm going to give them an opening statement at the beginning. They'll have an opportunity to close at the ending, give them an opportunity to respond to the questions. And eventually, if I pop back in, I will let them know that their time is kind of getting rough, but let's stay on topic. As far as questions from the outside, I want you as participants out there to provide your questions too. This is about your election. This is about people that you need to know that are going to be around potentially for 12 years, working on your home, on your place where you live, our city area here. So be aware of your questions. I would ask this, however, try to keep your questions, if you have them, on the present topic. I can assure you we're going to get to just about everything. We're going to talk about the homeless. We're going to talk about the golf course. We're going to talk about legislation in Sacramento. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about the sanctuary city. We're going to talk about what goes on with the police department. We're talking about funding. We're talking about Sacramento and the bills that they're passing up there and what can be done about it. So I think we're going to get to a lot of those particular things. So let's do the following. Let's bring up our candidates at this point in time and pin them on screen. And give me a moment to get everybody in here at this stage. And there is no particular order. It's just what happens to be coming up on my computer to do so. And bear with me on the mechanics of some of these things. It's not always. And Barry will get you up here too. And I will put myself on screen at the present time. My intention is that once we get going, I will probably unpin myself from the screen and let you guys go at it. I'll leave all three of the candidates on screen. If you want to make faces at things, point fingers at people, what have you, feel free to do so. If somebody calls somebody out on something specific, I'll give you an opportunity to respond back to that. You don't need to come in and interrupt on that. If something is there, and if I move on and don't acknowledge you to come back and respond to a question, interrupt me and I'll be happy to do that. That's the intent. As far as I'm concerned, we don't mind if you want to poke at each other. If you've got something that says this person's a problem, they should not have this job for a particular reason, we need to know that. And you may know stuff that we don't, because you have been involved with this and involved with other things that are going on. So let's do the following. Let's go ahead and start up with it. I've always been told that it should always be ladies first, even though the listing is not there. So I'll take the heat for being a sexist at this point and make that determination. That's what we'll do. Barry, we'll start off with you. I'd like to, so that we know, let's talk about, we need to know what your qualifications are. Why you? Why should you get this job as opposed to the other two? What makes you special in that regard? Why should we not be looking at the others for some particular reason? No platitudes now. We need to have plans. We need to know specifics about things that are going on. We need to know about your affiliations. We need to know about who's backing you and why they're backing you, who you're supporting, what you don't. I'm going to ask each of you about your party affiliations, about whether or not you are how you rate yourself as being conservative or liberal, or whether or not you consider yourself to be a democratic socialist, if you're part of the party or part of those individuals. So you might as well go and get that cleared up now at this point in time. Take about 3 minutes or so at that point. Barry, I'll turn the floor over to you, and I'll go hide out here and unpin myself at this point. You're on.
Thank you, John, and thank you so much to the Woodland Hills Homeowners Organization. It's such a pleasure to be with you all this evening. I'll start out by introducing myself and try to answer your questions, and I look forward to a wonderful conversation with you all tonight. So I'm Barri Worth Girvan, and I'm proud to be with you as a candidate for LA City Council here in the West San Fernando Valley. I was born here, and I'm raising my family here, and I love this community. I'm a working mom I'm a working mom here, and I am also a proud Woodland Hills homeowner myself. I take this job very seriously, and I appreciate the frame that you put on this because this has been my job for the last 20 years. I know that people are struggling in our communities, and I believe in making LA more accessible for everyone. I've spent my life advocating for our community. And
Barry, what part of town do you live in?
I live in Woodland Hills.
Which part?
I am by Serenia Park. If you know
Right,
Serenia Park. Yep. So I'm by Serenia Park. I love this community. I've lived here for many years now. I also used to live by the Bristol Farms and by Calabash prior to that. So I've lived in this community for many years. I was born in Tarzana. I grew up in West Hills, and now I'm a proud resident of Woodland Hills with my family. So as I mentioned, I've spent my life advocating for our community as a public servant for 20 years. I've served at the city, the state, most recently at the county. And I'm looking forward to leveraging this experience for all of us here to make sure that we all have a seat at the table. And I've spent many years bringing these voices, our neighborhood voices in and listening and acting. People ask me why I'm doing this, and I believe that we are in a moment right now. Our city, our state, our country has been under attack. We've just come through the worst natural disaster in our city's history last year, and it's all been against the backdrop of siloed government and not having the support of our federal government at this moment. So I've spent my career on the.
Barry, you're back into those platitudes again at this point in time. What are your strong talents that you bring to the table that we don't have otherwise?
Yeah, so my talents come a lot from my experience, and I know how to listen, and I know how to bring people in, and I know how to act and develop policy. And I'd like to share that I'm running to bring competence and transparency. I've worked on Measure D, which we talked a lot about today at the county, and I'm looking forward to bringing that to the city. One of the things, my talents also are connecting people with their government. I've done that for 20 years, and that's how I ensure that people have a voice.
How do you go about doing that?
So I've been a liaison. I've been in the district on front lines, and I work in communities. I go out proactively into communities. I meet with constituents, and I bring them in, and I bring those voices in. I set up conversations with constituent voices to make sure that we have voices at the table. And so I'm running to make sure that we are bringing government closer to the people that it represents and bringing our people and our voices into the halls of government. And that's.
Do you have any talents that are unique to you that the other candidates will not have?
Yes, 20 years of experience doing this work on the ground in our communities. And I'd like to share a moment about my priorities. My priorities for our district are safe, clean neighborhoods. That's a focus on public safety. Prioritizing public safety for me means protecting our public safety budgets and making sure that our public safety agencies and officers have the ability to protect our communities. I want to revitalize our local economy with a focus on job creation and workforce development and investing in our infrastructure, making sure that we don't have crumbling sidewalks and potholes in our communities. And I want to this is the most important thing to me, I want to make government work better for the people it represents. And that's what I've spent my career, 20 years on the front lines doing. That is what I said before, is proactive service delivery, connecting constituent service at its best, connecting people with their government, and also introducing a much higher degree of transparency, efficiency, and accountability. So that is working closely with our departments to make sure that they're.
If we get into some of those issues, we hope that you'll give us some specific plans that you have. I think that all of us know that we need to be able to fix our sidewalks. The question is, how do we end up doing that? Where do you sit politically on things? Are you liberal? Are you part of the Democratic Socialist group? Are you conservative? Where are you in the political arena?
Thank you. So I'm a mainstream Democrat. I've been a registered Democrat my entire life since I turned 18. I'm not a Democratic Socialist. I am a mainstream Democrat. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the LA County Democratic Party. So I'm the Democratic choice for this district. I'm also endorsed by the Democratic Party of the San Fernando Valley. So that is, I've been active with our party for many, many years. And I also want to say that I believe in governing with a very specific approach to neighborhoods individually. Every neighborhood is different and unique, and there's no one size fits all approach to policymaking. And so I really believe in that. And I believe that policy comes from listening. And so and not imposing solutions from downtown. So I look forward to serving this community. I mentioned that I am a strong member of the Democratic Party. I'm also proud to be endorsed by our state senator, our state assembly member, Henry Stern, Jesse Gabriel, as well as Jackie Irwin, our former council member, Joy Pikus, retired LAFD battalion chief, Stacy Gerlich from our community, the NWPC, which is the National Women's Political Caucus from the San Fernando Valley, nurses, entertainment industry workers, just to name a few, and many, many others, as well as our county supervisor. And I believe that I have a combination of vision and experience and deep community roots that will make sure that we have a strong voice at City Hall. And I've spent my career fighting for the Valley and making sure the Valley gets its fair share. And
your major contributors presently?
Who are my major contributors presently?
Correct. Who's financing your campaign?
I have to look that up. I believe SCIU 721, IBEW Local 40, Jesse Gabriel, Henry Stern, many others. I've got many local, Sean Ebenheim in the community, many local contributors.
And we're going to, the same question I'm coming to the other two, so you might as well look at this as well. Have you worked with any of the members on city council presently? Who do you get along with and who do you not get along with on the city council?
I have a good relationship with many of them. I'll share. I work well with Adrien Nazarian. I have a good relationship with Katie Yaroslavsky. I think Tracy Park is doing a very good job in the community, and I think it's really important, particularly with the fire recovery. So I think there's a lot of members doing important work on our city council, and I don't align with politically with the DSA members of the city council, but I do know how to work with everybody. And I think that's really important in this moment. And so go ahead.
Well, very good. All right. I appreciate that. You responded well to the questions on that one. Let's go and put Christopher into the hot seat presently. Christopher, you're on. You get 3 minutes or thereabouts to go ahead and talk to us and let us know. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's cool. So first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Christopher Celona, like Barcelona, without the bar. I love the Valley. It's funny. My wife, we moved out here because at the time she was a producer on The Bachelor, and I was fearful. I was like, well, I'm moving to the Valley from Hollywood. I'm like, what does that mean? And I've realized it's a dream. As you get older and life progresses, you yearn and want to be in different places. And there's a certain promise that the Valley makes of like good schools, good people, affordability. I have 3 kids. My youngest turned 8 at our launch party on Sunday. I have a 2-year-old, 2 little girls, 2-year-old little boy. And an amazing wife. The thing is, like during the fires, my roof got destroyed. Like branches fell. My car got crushed. We lost power. I had a 1-year-old, and it was a bit alarming, right? And I'll talk more about my volunteer firefighter experience as we get going. But having 7 days in a hotel, my wife's birthday with the 1-year-old was interesting. And there's moments in time where you want an outside perspective on something. You want a person who can come in who says, yeah, there are people who are excellent at establishing, creating jobs, and potentially monetizing what we would call like a nascent or a new and emerging space. And that's kind of what I've done for the last 26 years. I just realized John Walker, by the way, like the drink. I just put 2 and 2 together. Anyway, so for the last 26 years, guys, I've been very lucky. I built some great technologies. I built one of the first car part review websites in the late 90s. I went to school at nights. I got a chance to work with IAC and Vimeo, and people thought user-generated content was crazy back then. I'm one of the pioneers of influencer marketing. That's now a multi-billion-dollar industry. And now I was just at South by Southwest presenting about AI governance because I think it's really important that we don't necessarily strip away critical thinking from our young people. When you look at LA where we are right now, and then John, I'll open it up to you. LA needs a 2.0. We've let one of the largest things we're known for, entertainment, slip through our fingers. And it's not just because my wife is a casting director. A lot of my friends are filmmakers, whether it's from Vimeo or whenever. But like there are so many potential opportunities for LA to rise like a phoenix. And we need a person that can come in and say, all right, so I've done this now in these spaces that people barely could understand. And now all I have to do is look at where are the inefficiencies, right? Where are the laws that don't make sense anymore? Why is the permitting process designed in the way that it is? And it's a perfect time for a candidate like me to step in and say, yeah, you know what? I've done a good job over here. Now I want to focus in this. I'm an independent. And then John, what do you got for me? You're on mute, John. John, you're on mute.
John, you're muted.
I got you. I take it that that you haven't looked into these particular problems. You're just saying that now that you are going to look into them if you're elected to come in to be able to take care of our house, but you haven't looked into them presently to figure out what needs to be done. Is that fair?
Well, if you were to look at like film, right? Like I'm working with a couple of groups, and initially I thought that, what we need is we need more rebates and we need more money, etc. And as I started drilling down, I realized that, a lot of it comes down to simple things we can fix right away, like the permitting process. And then double clicking into that, you start to realize that there's a cascading effect of understaffed here.
Well, that's fine, Chris, but is there something specifically that you've looked at that said, listen, when I get there, my first day in office, I've got to do the following because it's just not working? Or are you saying, listen, when I get in there, I'm going to look around and see what things I can go and attack?
What I'm saying is right now I'm in discovery. And by the way, I go by Celona, like Bar Celona, just in full transparency. And so it's easier to remember. And again, dude, there are many things that as the newcomer, I'm not going to have the experience on yet. But when it comes down to it, we need jobs. We need a person that can bring technology to help understand where the inefficiencies are. And specifically, yeah, John, what do you got?
Well, what do you consider to be your best qualifications that set you aside from the other two candidates? What do you have to bring to the table that they don't?
Yeah, well, I think, John, when you think about this, I've had the challenge and the blessing to go and have to work in a space where people didn't know how it would work. They didn't know how to monetize it. They didn't know how people would be employed by it. And that's extended through 26 years. And so the reason for right now in Los Angeles, it's not working for any of the people I know, right? I spent the last, 45 days plus walking, talking to people, and now I'm up to probably 3,100 people. And about 90% of us are having some major issues, right? It's affordability and honestly, transparency. And when I've tried to click into where are these steps and where they're falling down, I don't have access to those tools yet. But John, to your point, I have a pedigree of working in spaces that people did not understand. So for me to not be able to step into this, it's not that hard for me to say, okay, great. Let's start to figure out exactly what is necessary for film to come back. Okay. What is necessary to start understanding why is infrastructure? Where are these deals happening? Why are we spending so much with so little out of homelessness? And the truth of the matter is, man, I surround myself with amazing people. We're the first campaign. Wait, John, I'm going to finish my point.
Yeah,
we are the first campaign in, I believe, Los Angeles City Council, where John Rawlings has joined our campaign for the greater good of Los Angeles as our campaign manager. And so, you know what? The way things have been done, cool, but it's not working. So John and I decided to work together because of his expertise with my expertise. And that is what I'm going to do. I build teams, John.
Why do you think that you'd be better suited in the job than the other two candidates?
I've described that just before.
Okay. Is there something about the other two candidates that would bother you if either one of them was elected?
Well, I think, again, I'm going to go back to my initial point. If LA is working for you, you have Barri, who's the Democrat, and you have Tim, who is what Tim is. I'm an independent. I am choosing the harder road. I am raising funds from individuals. I'm raising funds from my neighbors. I'm raising funds from people that I'm meeting. And I want the longer road because I chose this road because this is where you start to affect the most change to make my city what it should be, which is the home of entertainment.
Okay, you made your point that you are an independent. Do you consider yourself to be a liberal, a conservative, democratic, a socialist? Where are you on the spectrum?
Yeah, look, there's people, we live in this period where you think it's a cliche to say the right thing, and it's not. John, I want to make the point. I
Well,
like fiscal.
I'm asking you for it very
Oh, yeah.
specific. Where
I'm
do you
being
put
very
yourself on the political
specific.
campaign?
Oh,
I
I
don't want
get it, dude.
Where are you
I
at?
love money not being wasted, so I'm physically conservative, but I love programs that work. That's where pragmatism and the innovation of my experience comes into play.
So I take it that you'd be conservative on financial issues, you'd be liberal on social issues. Is that fair?
Yeah, I don't like wasting money. It's your tax dollars. It's my tax dollars. Where is it going?
Who's presently backing you and who's supporting you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of my friends. It's local business owners. It's nobody of a big name, really. It's just a lot of people chipping in.
Who's the largest contributor to you presently?
Well, I mean, I've gotten a bunch of people that have given me like $1,000. So, I mean, I've got my buddy Braden who's put $1,000 in. I've got my buddy Jay who's put about
So these are all
$500
private
in.
individuals. Are there any politicians that are supporting?
I don't want their money. No,
I understand. All right. That's good. Any unions supporting you?
we're talking to quite a few.
How, are they supporting you presently?
Nope.
Have any of them put any monies into your campaign?
Nope.
Well, all right. The other issue I've got was whether or not you have spoken to or could work with any of the council members. Is there any council
Yeah,
members
so
in the city that you like and can work with?
Yeah, so Nithya and I have actually agreed on bringing entertainment back. I can't stress this enough to every single person on this line. You all know someone who is hurting really bad right now, who hasn't worked in months or years. And if you think it's okay and this is fine and you want to keep driving business away, you have your options. They're taking money and getting endorsements and all sorts of amazing politicians of absolute high ethics standards. I am choosing to work with you, with normal people, and I'm really enjoying this because it feels like I'm in college. It's spectacular. But at the end of the day, if we are able to bring entertainment back by in the short term and get people working and get that 30-40% of our population back on track, dude, those are middle class jobs. They're not all actors. They're not all producers. Most of them, almost all of my neighbors, I'm up here in Calabash, are below the line. Okay, they're editors. It's post, it's commercial. These are real people with real jobs who need help. And they need someone who's going to stand up and say, you know what? You can keep your money and you can stay with all of your endorsements of people who choose to stay in power for far too long. Or we can try something new from someone who's proven he can do it time and time again. And if we make mistakes,
as we move along, I hope that you'll have some details about how you propose to be able to do that. Again, I think all of us want to find jobs. We want those for the entire industry to come back at this particular point too. So I appreciate that. Tim, let's go and talk with you for a bit at this point in time as well. Thank you, Christopher.
Celona,
Tim,
thank you.
I'm sorry?
I go by Celona, like Barcelona.
You'd rather have Celona? Then fine. I will certainly do that.
Thank you, sir.
No worries. Tim, you're up.
All right.
Tell us about what your qualifications are. What sets you apart from the others? What's your major talents here that's for interviewing for this job? You're looking for someone who's going to put you in for at least 4 years and maybe 12 years. Talk to us.
Right. So I have this like 3 or 4 minutes planned, and then I'm thinking to myself, like, is that a platitude? So you'll have to tell me. I'm a valley guy. I've been here my whole life. I grew up in Canoga Park. I used to walk to the Thrifties on Roscoe and Topanga. I used to go to the miniature golf course on Topanga where the village is, and go to the Foster Sprees on Reseda and Shimmer Way where my grandma lived. Went to all public schools, El Camino, put myself through Pierce, CSUN. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've built 3 different businesses. The latest one, the most of my time being spent on Gaspar Insurance, which grew to 65 employees. And I've made it my life's mission, and this is true with my wife and my kids too, to make the Valley better. I've been involved in about a dozen different youth organizations and small business organizations over the course of my life, most of which I'm still involved in today. It includes the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club. I've had a scholarship at CSUN for the past dozen years. I'm on the board of the Discovery Cube, the local chamber. So for me, this job is about improving the quality of life for the folks that actually live here and the people that work here. That's what this job is. That's the only reason that I'm running for it. I'm not running for a title. I'm running for the things that impact people on a daily basis.
What are your talents that allow you to be able to do that? What sets you apart from the other 2 candidates?
Sure. So there's three things I would mention. The first one is the insurance agency that I built. The key to that was customer service. Nobody likes insurance, and people, when they have a problem in insurance, they need an answer quickly. And so I was obsessive about making sure that customers got an email back the same day, that they got a call back the same day. And that is something that is missing at all levels of city government. I can't, when was the last time you called a city department or called a council office and had your phone call returned the same day or email returned the same day? It's something that doesn't happen. It's not part of the culture of the city. And that is something that I have perfected over my lifetime. And it's something that my personality, I obsess over. So that's number one. Number two, managing a budget. So I know a lot of times when candidates that have experience in politics talk about budgets, they say, I was involved in the LA budget. And I think, well, what exactly does involved mean? When I had to handle the budget, I had to handle the budget because it was my sole responsibility to make sure that all of my employees were paid, that all, the rent was paid, all of our office expenses were paid. And that meant that I was the one holding the ball at the end of the day. There were three separate occasions while I was building my business that I had to refinance my house to be able to do that. It's a lot different when the finances rest on, when they're solely your responsibility. It makes you understand finances a whole lot better. And so specifically when it comes to whether it's a business or a city, the three main components for any budget are the cash flow statement, the balance sheet, and the profit and loss statement. And that's exactly what I look at with the city of LA. And then the third piece that I'll mention is leadership. Leadership is something that you build that skill over time. And I've been a leader for, most of my life as an entrepreneur. And boy, I made a lot of mistakes when I started that journey, and I learned from those mistakes. And if you've never led a large team before, it's not something that you can just wing it or read it in a book or just tell people what to do because they're getting a paycheck. It doesn't work that way. You have to have experience getting people to move in the same direction to be able to accomplish things. So those are the specific skills that I have, and I'd love the opportunity to share my priorities, but of course I want to make sure I answer your question.
We're going to get to those for sure. Is there? Would you be comfortable if either one of your candidates, the other two candidates, if one of them was to be the one that was chosen to be in the seat, or do you have a problem with either one of them to be city council member?
Yeah, I don't think either one should be in the seat. So with Barri specifically, Barri's been in politics her entire life, with the exception of a short stint at a nonprofit. We don't need someone who's been in politics their entire life. We have enough of those people in government. There's not a need for City Hall to have another person with a political background. We need that like we need a hole in the head. We need someone that has a business background because not a single person on the city council has that. So that's why I would mention in that regard. And then in regard to Celona, Celona, I understand, Celona said you have to start somewhere to make change. You don't start in the city council seat. That's crazy. That's like saying I want to be a race car driver. I'm going to start racing Indy 500 or a Formula One car. You have to have experience in the community. You have to understand the community. I've lived in almost every single part of this district for at least some period of time. You have to understand the district, understand the programs that are in the district, understand the youth programs that are in the district. Is that something you want to make a difference with? Then neither candidate has the background to improve the quality of life for the people that live here.
Okay, Tim, hold on for a second. So you called Barri out. Barri, you got an opportunity to go ahead and respond to that. Be short, but go ahead with
yeah. Thank you so much, John. First, I just want to make sure that there's the same level of respect across all of the candidates. I respect what you're doing, and I want to make sure I know that I was interrupted a number of times, and I want to make sure that that's equal across the board here. But I definitely want to say, to Tim's point, I think it's exactly what we need. We've seen how when people get into office at every level of government with no experience, exactly what happens. And I think right now we can't afford not to have experience. And my entire life, I've served this community, but not just behind a desk. I've been on the front lines in communities, working together with constituents. And I think that's exactly what we need. And I think that's what's going to allow me to hit the ground running on day one and actually serve this community to the best of our ability.
Mr. Celona, you were called out too. You can have an opportunity to respond as well if you wish.
Yeah, it's Celona, like Barcelona, Mr. Johnny Walker.
Did I mess it up again?
Yeah, dude, listen, just say Barcelona. You're going to be there soon enough. It's a beautiful place.
That's true. Celona, go ahead, Mr. Celona.
Listen, dude, every single job you build and every industry you move into takes a team. No, any person who thinks they have all the answers is lying to your face. If you can build a good team, as I've showed with my first step by bringing in Mr. Rawlings for the first time in Los Angeles city history, you could easily lead this. You know why? Because there are good people in this town who want something better. There are leaders. I've talked now, it's probably 150 to 200 business leaders. Their problems, they're not so different. You know what you do when you talk to over 3,000 people? You realize 90% of us are the same. And so when it comes to identifying issues, adding scale in there is great. But you have to roll up your sleeves and be willing to do the best thing, which is listen to people. They will tell you everything you need. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Tim, let's go back and talk to you about that. Who's backing you, and where are you getting your money for your campaign?
Yeah, so from a money standpoint, I have contributions from, I think at this point, over 900 different individuals and groups, some of which have contributed $1,000, some of which have contributed $5. When I started the campaign—
Who's the largest contributor?
Well, the maximum's 1,000. So there's, I think, 300 different entities or people that have given 1,000.
Do you have any unions that are putting monies to you, or any corporations putting monies to you?
Unions, yes. So the LAPPL, which is the LAPD. I have some building trades like the pipe fitters, the sprinkler fitters, the painters, the motion picture electrical workers. I have support from them. I have support from ILWU, which is the warehouse workers in San Pedro. I'm trying to remember them all. I have support from a number of elected officials, including the current Councilman Bob Blumenfield, John Lee, LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger, Congresswoman Luz Rivas, and Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin.
All those who are in the construction industry, how much do you feel that you are in line with them, or feel that you're obligated to them because they're supporting your campaign, especially if you're elected as a council member?
So the great thing, so because the most you can give is $1,000, anyone who thinks that they gave me the maximum contribution and therefore they're going to have some sort of influence or control over me is sadly mistaken. And so I appreciate support, and I make sure that I listen to every single person that I sit down with, whether they support me with $5 or 1,000, but nobody has influence over me. The only boss that I have if I'm elected are the people that live in this community. And I know that probably sounds cliche, but it is absolutely the case. And I think that working for the community for free, it wasn't anything I ever got paid for, I think is pretty good proof of that.
Talk to me about your political leanings. Do you consider yourself a liberal or a conservative or a democratic socialist? Where are you on the spectrum?
I'm a moderate Democrat. I'm pro-business. I'm socially liberal. I'm financially conservative. I want to see businesses do well, pro-law enforcement.
Very good. Do you find that there's, as far as working with the council members presently on seated, do you find that you're able to work with them, or that you're going to have problems with them?
Yeah, you have to be able to work with them. Anyone who's elected in this position, regardless of how you feel about the beliefs of the folks that are on the city council, the people that live here and pay taxes expect you to work with them. And so that's exactly what I intend to do. I reached out to every single city council member when I started running, regardless of how I felt about their beliefs. And I've sat down with, I think, 9 of them at this point, including folks that I thought I would have very little in common with. But there's certain things, there's certain topics that I know for certain we can work on together, and we can get everybody on the same page. Some things that we're very far apart on, but some things that absolutely we agree, and we can do some positive things.
Well, staying with that, if I may now, since we're going to kind of a new question, I'll start with Tim on this one. We'll come back to each of you. Tim, we know that you apparently have had some meetings with the city council members. Who have you actually physically met with, and what did they say to you as far as either telling you what you're going to have to do or not do, or what should be done? First of all, who have you met with that's presently sitting on the city council at this point?
Yeah, so write it down so I don't forget. So you have my supporters, Bob Blumenfield and John Lee, who I've met with many times. I've met with Tracy Park a number of times. We've done some events together. The same is true with Monica Rodriguez. We've done a couple of events together. In addition to that, I've met with Katie Roslowski for coffee. In addition to her, maybe one of the most surprising, at least from my standpoint, is I had coffee with Eunices Hernandez, which is someone that I disagree with on a lot of really important things. But honestly, I had a very nice coffee with her, and there are some things that I think we can work together on. So Eunices is one. I sat down with Marquise Harris Dawson for a lunch. Trying to think who I'm forgetting. See, I haven't met with any of the other. Trying to think some of the candidates in SL and
what have they been telling you about your campaign and what things you need to be doing or not doing?
In regard to the campaign. Yeah. Oh, I've learned from everyone. And so when I talk to the folks that I have the closest relationships with, which would be, likely John, Bob, and Tracy, they always talk about when you're campaigning, the need to be actually talking to people. There's, you hire these consultants when you start running. And I think if you listen to consultants the whole time, you'll get in real trouble because they're looking at the campaign as a mailer program, right, or a social media program. And I think if you do that, you're going to end up in a bad spot. And I've seen some candidates that did follow everything their consultant said, and they didn't do well. And so I've spent as much of my time as humanly possible knocking on doors. I know there's a direct correlation between the number of shoes that you go through and whether or not you're going to be successful. I've heard that more than once, and people are actually serious when they say it. And so knock on as many doors as possible. And opportunities like this with debates, and I think this is our third or fourth debate. These are really, really important because in these debates, and I love the fact, John, that you're not allowing folks to use platitudes and forcing people to give straight answers, because whether I give a straight answer that somebody on this call agrees with or disagrees with, at least they know what my priorities are and whether or not they should vote for me. And whether that they do or whether they don't, at least it's not, they're having to guess how I feel about something. It's really important that in calls like this, in these types of debates, that folks actually put their beliefs on the table and put their priorities on the table.
Have you attended any council meetings at all?
Yeah.
In person?
Yeah, so I attended.
What was your impression?
Yeah, very disappointing. And both, so I've gone to 2 council meetings, and in both times, there was no decorum. In both cases, there were folks that were in the audience that were screaming profanities at the same time that kids were there. And it was disappointing. And I thought to myself, what if someone was, a tourist from some other state and they came to our city council? Or what if somebody was being honored with some award and they were, having to sit in this room and witness this? So it was disappointing. I do watch a decent amount of city council portions of meetings on YouTube afterwards when it's certain laws or motions that I want to pay attention to. And I do also see a lot of examples of city council members working together in ways that maybe you wouldn't expect. Like I think John Lee actually has a very positive relationship with Unisys, which I've seen, even though you wouldn't necessarily think that's the case based on public safety. But then also some cases where there are some motions that have tried to pass and some things that I very much disagree with. And I think that's maybe an answer to another. Sorry.
Let's talk to Barry real quickly on this one too. Barry, if you would, have you been down to watch any of the city council meetings at all? And what was your impression of seeing what city council is doing?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in 1 second. Thank you, John. I just want to go back to the last question because I wanted to share that on the question of donations and where our donations are coming from, I'm really proud to say that I'm the only candidate in this race who has not made a large personal loan to my campaign or personal contributions. And I think that's really important that all my contributions have come from donors, individuals in the community and organizations who are supporting my campaign.
Let's clear that up right away. Tim, have you made loans to your own campaign?
Yep, I put $40,000 of my own money in. I've raised a total of, at this point, not including matching, of about $430,000. And I'm incredibly proud with the fact that I put in $40,000 because it shows that I'm committed to this community. And I don't think not putting in $1 of your own money is something to brag about.
Mr. Celona, where are you at on that? Have you made any loans to your committee?
Yeah, it's Celona, like Barcelona. And so I put the first 2,000 in. It's all good, brother. We're going to get there. It was not a loan. I committed the money in. It's all good. I did not take a loan.
Okay, very good. Barry, let's go back to the city council, if you will.
Yeah.
Have you gone to any of the meetings and what was your impression?
Yeah, so when I worked in City Hall, I attended many meetings about 15 years ago, and I've over the last year, I've attended meetings and I've also watched virtually, and I will say it's democracy in action, but it is one of the dark sides of democracy is the profanity that my opponent alluded to, and I'm very concerned about the vitriol that happens there. And I also know one of the things that gets people, and I hear it over and over again, for people who take the time, especially when we live all the way out here in the West Valley, it takes us a long time to go downtown and for people to get downtown to share their thoughts in public comment. And when the council members are talking and chit-chatting and not paying attention and not listening to people giving public comment, I know that the public feels very disrespected by that. So I think there's a lot of disrespect to go around. I think there's disrespect in the audience, and I think there's disrespect in the council.
Have you met with any council members, and what have they told you about what you should be doing? And who have you met with?
I've met with Adrien Nazarian. I've met with Katie Yaroslavsky. I've met with President Marquise Harris Dawson. I've met with Nithya Raman, and I've met with both Bob Blumenfield and John Lee, and maybe some others that I'm forgetting. But I think that's the list. And I've reached out to everybody, and I'm having as many of those.
What have they told you? If anything?
Yeah. And they've told us that that City Hall is, they've told me that City Hall is broken. All of them are saying that right now, that City Hall is broken, and that there's a lot of despair. They've all shared with me despair. And that we have a lot of work to do, especially with the Olympics coming and with the big events coming to our city, that they've shared frustrations with their colleagues, they share frustrations with other levels of government. And so I think there's a lot of frustration I've heard about.
Mr. Celona, same questions back to you. Have you met with any of the council members?
Ooh, Mr. Walker, you nailed that name that time.
I'll
Thank
try.
you.
By the way,
Yeah, so I have 3 kids, and as you know, we live in Woodland Hills, so I've watched a few. And I would agree, and honestly, to Barry's point, I think when people feel powerless, which is where most Angelenos feel right now, versus powerful, they tend to lash out and they tend to, just focus on something and do whatever they can to feel something. Part of what we're supposed to do, and at least I plan on doing this, is a city council person is supposed to get the other person out of their headspace and help them get you to the middle, right? Whether that person's beliefs are aligned with you or misaligned with you. The goal of all of our campaigns should be what's best for the city, period. And when you think about that, I've reached out to all the candidates. A few of them gotten back. We've talked to their people. But as the newest guy and the latest guy in the race, sometimes people don't want to meet with me. They'd be happy to take my money before they realized I was running. But at the same time, that's okay, because you know who matters to me? The voters, the business owners. Those are the ones who matter most. And so while we've watched a lot of this unfold, if we're able to enable and make people feel powerful and see something happening, it's not that hard to get people motivated and working in the same direction again.
that question came from Janice, of wanting to know about what your impressions were with the city council. Have you met with any of the city council members?
No, we spoke mostly with their staff. We've done like the pleasantries with Nithya, etc., but nothing in depth, nothing in policy.
Okay, well, the reason why we're asking those questions, particularly about that, comes up with the next issue. In order to be able to get things done, especially with the homeless in Los Angeles, especially in our area out here, we have to work with 4118. First, do each of you know what 4118 is? If you don't, tell me. Shake your head no, and we'll go through that. Everybody knows 4118. For those who don't, that are out there listening, 4118 basically requires the city council, in order to get people off of the street, to basically make a motion in order to take certain areas that they're going to utilize as being against health, safety, and welfare. And there's other parameters to it. I don't want to go into that because of the details, but nonetheless, it requires a majority vote from the city council in order to be able to post those areas before they can move the people out. It takes 14 days for them to do so. So the question comes up with city council has got 15 members. So yourself and 7 others are needed in order to get those motions through. Mr. Celona, let's talk with you first on that one. How are you able to coordinate with those other people, herding the cats, if you will, of getting 8 people, including 1 vote from yourself, to be able to get people to support the 4118? I think some of you may have heard from Bob Blumenfield that there's 3 people, particularly on the city council, that are just constantly against the idea of supporting 4118. So first, do you support the idea of utilizing 4118 to remove people from homeless people from certain areas of the streets and getting city council to support that? And how do you go about being able to do that with getting a majority vote? Keep it short and simple. We'll go down to each one. We have many things to get to tonight.
Yeah, no worries. So the answer is, we should not have home insecurity by schools, parks, and then across every single neighborhood. But at the same time, we don't have the right kind of reform, nor the how would you say, transparency to know what's working and what's not. And I'll put a bow on this right now, John. For the people who totally disagree, I want to understand what is it exactly they do not like and why are they so against it. For the folks who do agree, right, and say that this is something that potentially is necessary, I'd like to understand more about what they are trying to accomplish. At the end of the day,
do you support 4118 or are you against 4118?
Yeah, we're for it.
Okay. Very same question to you. Where do you stand with the 4118? Do you support it? Are you against it? It shouldn't be enforced. If you're on city council, are you going to utilize it, or would you vote against other ones trying to utilize it?
I support it, and I will enforce it in our district, and I will build coalitions with people on council to make sure that we get the votes that we need to have more uniform enforcement.
Tim, same question to you. Do you support 4118, and how are you going to be able to get the city council to be able to support that, since you need to get 8 total votes?
I supported 100%. Day one of my campaign, I put in writing that I will enforce it at every possible opportunity. I'm going to be very similar to John Lee in regard to how that is enforced and how aggressively that is enforced to be able to get people help. That's my motivation. And like I was saying in regard to sitting down with each city council member, having good relationships with each council member is going to be absolutely crucial to being able to get those 8 votes. But one thing that I'll mention, John, is this election, sort of in general, is going to be a very important aspect of that, because as you mentioned, Bob pointed out 3 different council members that will always vote no on 4118, and there is no rhyme or reason to it. There's no logic to it. It's an ideological belief. And if this election goes sideways, and if we end up with a couple more people from that end of the spectrum that end up on our city council, it could become more difficult to enforce 4118, even if you have the best intentions. And I mention that because that is something that we all need to be aware of as Angelinos, and the danger that some of these radical ideas on the city council pose to our city.
Very good. Barry, let's talk with you about sanctuary city. Are you supporting the fact that the Los Angeles should be a sanctuary city? Are you opposed to it, or do you support the sanctuary city concept?
I 100% support this. I think what's happening on our streets and around here in Los Angeles and around the country is unconscionable, and I will fight to make sure that we protect our vulnerable communities throughout our district and throughout the city of Los Angeles. Yes.
Are you aware of something that's called Special Order 40?
I am not. I need to look at that.
Special Order 40 was a vote, if you will, or actually came out from LAPD, that basically said that they were not going to be doing.
Oh, the mask.
Yeah, that they were not going to be doing. Not trying to ask people about whether or not they were illegal aliens or not, but also indicated that if they did find and arrested somebody that was an illegal alien, that they would mark their folders as being undocumented alien. And if they were arrested on a second time with a violent crime, basically, that they would record that information and provide that to DHD as an undocumented alien log, and they'd also notify the United States Immigration and Naturalization Service that they were done so. Do you support that concept, or do you support the concept of that it doesn't matter if they are arrested, what they've done, or what have you, they should never be turned over to the federal government?
I do not support breaking families apart. I do support, arresting people if they've committed a crime, but I do not support breaking families apart.
What does that really mean? What do you have something in mind specifically about?
Yeah, the deportations and what I've seen happening from ICE on our streets, I do not believe in, and I don't think it's acceptable. So I do not support that.
Mr. Celona, where are you at?
Yeah, so if somebody commits a violent crime here in town, I don't care where they're from, there's consequences, no exception.
Do you think they should be reported if they are illegal aliens to Border Patrol for them to be removed?
Your question is, if someone is here illegally and they commit a violent crime, they should be reported. They should be arrested and gone. If someone is a violent criminal, they have no place in this. Are you, really?
So I take it that you do not support the concept of a sanctuary city, correct?
No, that's not true at all. If someone is a violent criminal, was the question you said, specifically in the topicality of that word.
Correct.
My position on that is if a violent criminal was to do something to my family, my children, my wife, my little rescue dog, he's very cute, unacceptable.
Well, just so that we're clear, part of the controversy has to do with somebody who has indeed been arrested, that ICE would like to have the police department to notify them that they're going to be released from custody and hold them so that they can come and grab them for deportation procedures. So do you support that concept, or do you support the concept that if they've been arrested, that they should never be turned over to ICE to be deported at all, under any circumstances, except for violent crime?
If the person has committed a violent crime and they are here illegally, I don't know what's happening here. They should be deported. If it's a violent criminal who's here illegally, really?
Tim,
if it's
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Was there?
No, it's okay. It doesn't make This is
Tim, your position on that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with Special Director 40. That was actually Daryl Gates, of all people, that came up with that. And so I do believe that if someone commits a crime in this country, a violent crime, they should not be allowed to stay in the country. However, they need to serve their time first, because what could happen is if you have someone that commits a violent crime and you deport them immediately, what if the country that they go back to doesn't put them in jail and then they sneak right back into the US? So you can't allow that to happen. So the consequences have to be for violent crime. They have to serve the time here, and then as soon as that time is served, then they get deported.
Why couldn't they serve that time back in their local countries? We don't have to pay for that, dude. What's up with
No,
that?
we don't have control over that.
Yeah, but that's the thing that we could. I mean, now it's getting esoteric at this point, but like there are ways that we can talk through this so that it actually starts to make way more sense. Like we're always footing the bill for everything. Like the taxpayer's always being penalized.
Yeah,
I would love to
in
have a
this
bigger
case, we
conversation
pay to-
about this at a later point.
Yeah, in this case, we pay to keep them locked up. If it's a violent crime, absolutely.
Well, the issue that seems to come up a lot of times with this has also to do with the homeless and how to be handling them. There's been a lot of money that's been spent on trying to take care of the homeless and trying to do something to get them off of the streets and trying to be humane in that particular process. And it's been literally billions of dollars that have been allocated for it. And as you all probably know, there's been problems going on with the county and with some of the audits that have been going on with Judge Carter and the fact that they can't get LASA to go through an actual accounting on things. And the county has pulled those monies back away and going to try to do it on their own with those things. How do you see, for each of you, how are we going to handle the situation with the homeless to get them off of the streets and yet take care of it in some kind of a humane fashion? And do you think it's a homeless issue, or do you think it's other complicated? And what kind of a plan, some details as to what things you would want to do in order to take care of the homeless that we presently have and to get them off the streets? Let's start, Tim. Let's start with you, and we'll work backwards through the group. Go ahead, Tim.
Sure. So I think step one is we do need to, back to 4118, we do need to enforce that. We need to enforce the anti-camping law, because allowing somebody to stand in a camping on the street, stay in an encampment, is completely inhumane to that person, and it's unfair.
Tim, if I may stop you at a moment for that one. The problem with that is that 4118, what ends up happening is they just move them from one place to another place. And it's whack-a-mole at that point in time. And 4118 only has certain parameters that it can be used in as to what the locations are to it. So if they were to move them over, for example, by the Rams facility over there, it doesn't fall into some of those categories. So talk to me. What's the plan to be able to take care of them besides 4118? That's a part of the arrows in your quiver, but what's the plan?
So the plan in regard to where exactly to put these folks, there are organizations that do an amazing job, that know what they're doing. So you take the Salvation Army as one example. There's an organization called Share that's out of Culver City. The Salvation Army facility that's in Commerce has 500 beds. They have a greenhouse where they grow their own vegetables. They have a kennel for their pets. The reason I bring them up is because, number one, they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for literally over 100 years. And just as importantly, they're at a cost of between $30,000 and $35,000 per year to be able to help these folks. And the same thing is true with Share. Share's at a pretty near the same cost. But right now, when you take a look at what the city is spending, we're using I don't know how many dozens of different organizations, and you take a look at what the cost is per person, and it's up to 3 or 4 times that $30,000 number. With I should mention the success rate with the Salvation Army with Share is at least 80%, and by some cases, by some measurements, actually higher. And so the missing part, though, is I know which organizations I would like to see take care of these people. The missing part, though, is I do think in situations where you have someone that is sick, if someone is mentally sick or suffering from addiction, they are not in their right mind to be able to determine if they need help or not. And the missing piece here in Los Angeles is we're not currently able to compel help. And I think that is the missing piece, where we need to be able to compel that these folks get into help. And that is something that LA simply doesn't have. And I do think that is something we need to figure out, where we can't just leave these folks to make their own decision in that regard when somebody is very sick. And the last thing I want to mention in regard to the cause of homelessness, it is not, a lot of folks look at the homeless and they think it's drugs, it's mental illness, and those certainly play a case in a lot of situations. But there's been so many different studies about what causes homeless, And when you control for everything else, the cost of housing is the single biggest component that determines how much homelessness there's going to be in any other city. And I'm sure many folks, some of the candidates maybe read the book Abundance, and it talks a lot about that. And I'm sure there'll probably be a question about housing. We do need to be able to focus on the housing piece if we're actually going to see a meaningful reduction in the homeless population.
Mr. Celona, where are you at?
Yeah, actually, that was great. Tim took the wind out of my sails on that one. So I'm going to add an and, if you will. This is the fun part about local politics, is that if we're all saying similar things, it's actually a net positive. But I also think, like, so on top of the and now I'm going to move into more of a pragmatic thing. I still would really like to know and empower, our controller to be like, hey man, could we actually get in there and audit these books? Because I've been talking to so many different people, and there's this obfuscation that happens with the state wanting to help someone, and it goes to a 501c3, then it rolls into some housing for the underserved, and then it gets kind of blurry, and then there aren't always rent controls and things of that nature in there. But I think one idea we've been bouncing around a lot is, if we were just to focus on small groups and who are willing, and 501c3s are nonprofits who are willing to be completely transparent. Think of it like the ledger system, right? Where you can keep track of every dollar that comes through. And we were able to say, all right, so let's work with the people who are figuring it out, open up the books so we know where all the money goes, and let's get pregnant women off the street. Let's get families. Let's get people who are just down their luck, not mentally unstable, not drugs, VA, etc. There are 501c3s that be willing to do that. If we could model those things out, which we can, we then would be able to say, okay, so now we figured out how to take care of these 4, 5, 6 different groups. In our district, it may not be that large to start, but it is something that we can actually model, meaning we can say, it's this, it's that, and the outcome is this. What's exciting about that is in a transparent set, it's only a matter of time as we start to scale that model across the valley, where now we're starting to say, well, okay, after 1 year of doing this, the budget to serve the home insecure is still the same. And by taking an approach of complete transparency, coupled with some of what Tim said, working with very specific groups that have modeled it out, meaning they've developed a way of doing it so that the costs are effective, not crazy, we'll be able to start actually figuring out where the money goes.
Fair enough. Barry, where are you at on this one as far as what should be done? What's the plan? Noting that a lot of money's been spent, and doesn't seem like we've gotten anything to show for those monies. Again, we talk about being good stewards of the finances that we put in from the hard-earned monies that go by taxes. What's your plan?
Well, thank you. First, I'm glad that we already talked about 4118, and I want to say that is an important part of the solution, but it's not a panacea. We have to use it to keep our parks, our schools, our libraries safe. But as a parent, I don't want my kids walking by something untoward on our sidewalk. So I think this is an important part of it. But we also know that this is a humanitarian crisis that requires urgency and compassion and accountability. And what I want to say is LAHSA is broken. I believe that LAHSA is broken, and you mentioned it earlier, and having worked at the county, we pulled our money at the county out of LAHSA because it is broken, and people do not trust government right now, and this is why. We are squandering people's money. We cannot do that. We need accountability so that we can identify where the money is going and we can see what's working and what's not working. So what I support is mirroring what we've done at the county, at the city, and restructuring LAHSA. What I believe that will, I think, bring about an ability to actually see where our money is going and what we need to be doing, what is working, and what we need to be doing differently. I believe that the housing first approach works, but it cannot be housing only. And what I mean by that is we need to invest in wraparound mental health services. And that is where we must partner with the county and with agencies in our communities. The city needs these partnerships, and we need to call on our county partners. The county is the safety net, social service safety net for Los Angeles, and we need to make sure that we are bringing these services. That's the Department of Mental Health, Department of Public Health. We need to bring those in. And I also want to say that for me, the program that's doing this at the city is the LA City Circle program that sends trained mental health professionals into nonviolent situations with homeless individuals, which will save our LAPD resources for the violent crimes where they're actually needed most. And that's where I think we need to be investing to make sure. What I'm going to do in our district is I'm going to have a district strike team to go into neighborhoods to proactively identify issues on the ground in real time. And I'm going to use discretionary funds to hire workers to address the unhoused concerns and the encampments to quickly get them off so we don't have to wait to the moving at the speed of bureaucracy, because the speed of bureaucracy ain't doing it for us.
Well, thank you for some detailed plans on that. I appreciate that. As most of you know, there's no the Department of Public Health is in the county. We don't have one for the city of Los Angeles. Do you support, Barry, that the city of Los Angeles should have its own Department of Public Health?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. We don't have the funding for it at this time, but I do believe, and I don't think that our funding with our budget crisis, I don't think our budget dollars are best served duplicating services that are already being provided at this county. What I think we need to do is I think we need to work across jurisdictions to make sure that we're not siloing. We need to coordinate better with the county.
Mr. Celona, do you believe that we should have our own Department of Public Health in the city of Los Angeles?
No, that was well done, Barry.
We leave it to stay with the county. Tim, what about you? You're muted, Tim.
Excuse me. That's the county's responsibility. We should not.
Okay, let's talk about LAPD briefly. We're going to get into some stuff about state legislature and about the golf course issues here in just a moment for those that are listening. I haven't forgotten about you on that because I want to know too. Let's talk about LAPD, the funding of LAPD. We have the Olympics coming up. There was a question that was being asked about how fearful are you with what kind of concerns do you have with the Olympics coming into town, the Super Bowl with soccer coming in? We basically broke. LAPD seems to be underfunded at this point in time. Don't know what's going to end up happening here. It's going to be an attraction, I think, an attraction to a lot of people. They're going to do some stuff that's potentially pretty bad here. What should we do with LAPD? How do we get more people in? What do we do with the funding on that? And how do we best use them in the ways that we could possibly be better off on it? Mr. Celona, let's start with you today.
And you're nailing the name now, Mr.
Trying.
Walker. Woo!
I'm trying.
So I had the pleasure. I like it, brother. Thank you so much. And again, thank you everybody for being here this evening. If you hear some loud noises, I think my children are destroying the hallway outside this door. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Chief McDonald for a little while. He's from New England, and surprisingly, the only thing we really disagree on is a lobster roll. I think the Connecticut lobster roll with the butter is better. He's from Massachusetts, so he likes the mayonnaise. You know, there are bigger issues. We are understaffed, that is correct. But there's also a lot of rules and regulations, like they can't shoot down a drone. Like, really? And there's a lot of laws that are in place that we need to be really very much streamlining in a much more pragmatic way. But I would imagine there's a way to quickly, let's talk about the short-term plan, as Mr. Walker requested. By the way, John, do you care that I'm calling you that? It sounds cool. It's like you're a Texas Ranger when I say that. And so, you know, there's a quick way for us to get police working, right? I think, forget the exact number. Let's just take a broad stroke. It's around 10 to 20% of our officers, right? Our sworn officers are in the office. We could easily, in the short term, bring in staffers, right? People to do the back end office stuff, the support work, get those officers who are sworn out into the field, right? Increase automatically what we've got by a small order of magnitude. That allows them to get back to the neighborhood. But again, if we really want to increase the amount of police officers we need, which we do, we need to increase our tax base. And the fastest way to increase that tax base and get people working is bring entertainment back. And by the way, I'm open to hear other people's ideas. I'm a big collaborate and conquer guy. Those of you who've met me, and I see some of your names before, you know my fundamental equation is 1 + 1 is 3. The right team can outmatch the sum of its parts. And if we were able to quickly start getting entertainment back, we could get our tax base up. We could bring those short-term officers out of the office back into the field. Then we can start ramping up new people, and we're off to the races. But it starts with looking at the laws, understanding what we actually need, because the threats are real, right? Like, this is the Olympics. This is a target for other people, specifically in a time like now.
Do you support the use of drones, as we know that they can be responsive into locations within a few minutes with the time to assess the areas to see whether or not they really need to dispatch officers to the area, whether or not there's bogus calls. Some people have indicated there was one that they had where the drone got there within 20 seconds. They're able to see there was an assault with a weapon. They're able to see the person actually putting the weapon back in their pocket. They could identify them and knew which house they went into. Are you supportive of using drones, or do you find that that's an invasion of privacy? Where are you on that drone issue?
Yeah, well, I think what we have to be, again, we need pragmatism in this moment in time in Los Angeles history. There's a bifurcation that has to happen in the city. And if there's a violent crime, I'm going to give back to you exactly what you gave me, just to make sure we're on the same page. If there's a violent crime, it's happening outside of my house, right? There was a break-in actually to my neighbor probably a couple of months back, and if a drone could get here in 20 seconds and they realize how legitimate this is, and we have the right kind of prioritization system on the back end. I know there's a lot of technical debt, by the way, with city, with some of our first responders. So we need someone who's pragmatic and understands technology. Someone like myself, potentially. If you guys will have me, who can actually prioritize those things. I think that's a great use of time, because our officers, as we know, there's not enough of them to cover what we need. So if you can send out something very quickly that will identify how much, if someone's there with an actual gun, the officer now knows where to go. So it's not a false claim or things of that nature.
Barry, where are you on this one as far as what we need to do with LAPD? Are we afraid what's going to go on with the Olympics and other adventures? And what about using drones?
Yes, I am afraid of what's coming with the Olympics and all of our other major events that are coming up. Look, I think we are woefully understaffed in our police department. When I worked at the city 18 years ago, we were at hiring to attrition, and we were aspiring to 10,000 police officers. Look, like New York has, I think, 36,000 officers, and Chicago has 12,000. 15, 16 years ago, we were at 10,000. Now we're down with our population growing. Now we are down to close to 8,300. We are woefully underprepared. And because of that, I think we need to definitely be investing in our police. And I support adding new police officers. There was a proposal to add 240 new officers. I think that's still not enough for the upcoming big events, the mega events that are coming up. I think that's still not enough. I do support the drone program. Look, like, I believe that if people don't feel safe in our city, no one's going to want to live here, work here, or travel here. And with the events that we have on the horizon, this is imperative. There's also a task force that the city set up on human trafficking, which is really important that we pay attention to that at the mega events. And I believe just today the council approved $2.1 million to invest in the drone program. And this is to answer your question about the drones. This is incredibly important. It helps. We got to use the technology at our fingertips to help inform our policing and make it more efficient. And it also protects our officers, which is really important before we send them into the line of fire, so that they can see what's going on. So there's excellent technology, and I think it's important that we're investing in it.
Jim, where are you on this one about taking care of LAPD and the fears we might have with the Olympics coming in, and also using drones to supplement?
Sure. I absolutely have concerns around the World Cup coming up, certainly the Olympics, the Super Bowl coming up. Just given our very limited number of officers, slightly over 8,000, we're in a bad spot. We're in a bad spot just for day-to-day policing, and we're in a really bad spot when it comes to big events, and if God forbid there's another emergency. And so I absolutely am supportive of drones and license plate readers and traffic cameras and all of the different technologies that we can utilize to be able to use those as force multipliers. Those are absolutely critical. I made public safety my number one priority for my campaign from day one. And I've done about a half a dozen different ride-alongs. I mentioned my wife comes from law enforcement, so this is something that is very personal to me. And as I mentioned, a priority. I'm the only candidate that's supported by the LAPPL, which is the LAPD union. And our city council has so much ability to be able to support the LAPD or do the opposite. And you might have seen today, was actually yesterday, a few of the current city council members came up with a motion to move some of the financial accountability outside of the LAPD and into the city controller's office. Kenneth Mejia made one of his primary campaign goals to defund the police. So that's the definition of putting the wolf inside the hen house. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I'm very concerned around any additional powers that the city council may have that can negatively impact LAPD. And so definitely very much a focus for me to be able to get that officer count up, and also to stop kicking the LAPD, in the butt every. It seems like we're always on their case. They're the most scrutinized department in the country, and I think that they could use our support as a community and as a city hall.
Just so we have you on record for each one of it, Mr. Sloan, do you support defunding the police?
No way, but time out. Tim, did they endorse you or did they donate to you? I just want a point of clarification, just for my own edification.
Both.
Okay, cool. I didn't see it on your website. Just checking. Great. It's on the record.
Same thing to you. Are you in favor of defunding the police? Let's get you on record at least for that.
Absolutely not. I do not believe in defunding the police, and I've said on time and time again that I think we need to make sure that we are funding our police.
Gotcha. Tim, let's come back to you on this one. We're got some time here. We got to get to a major issue we have to have here. Let's talk about the state legislature and the interactions between city council and state legislature. And the reason why this has become important is the following. It was told to us as the homeowners groups and the work that I've done back with secession and what have you from ages ago, that Sacramento had said that you're going to have to get rid of all the single family homes. They don't make any sense. We can't justify having two people live on such a large piece of land when we can build a lot more on that. They're hostile to it. They're hostile to our roads. They don't want to provide any additional funding to widen out the roads. They're putting bike lanes everywhere so that we get congestion and will get us out of our cars and trying to get into some type of transportation issues. It has been in the past, especially with Bob Blumenfield, that the attitude was, that's a state legislature. We can't really get involved with them. I'm not going to try to politic with them, or even with the LA Unified School District, that we are kind of our own little department. Everybody's got their own little departments there, but unfortunately they interact with us. What we're seeing going on presently in the state legislature is this movement to get rid of the single family homes. They put in SB 9, SB 10 they put in, SB 79 they put in. They've got AB 211, which we'll talk about in a moment concerning the golf course, AB 839 and AB 22443 and the amendments that have gone on to that. It's gotten kind of crazy at this point of what they're doing up there. Weiner, who's been pretty much active in that, is probably going to run for Pelosi's seat. He may come out of that, may over in the federal government area. We don't know what he's going to end up doing over there. But nonetheless, there's been this attitude, if you will, in Sacramento that we don't know what we're doing down here. Despite the fact that we did the specific plan out here for Warner Center, that we came up with these great plans on how we're going to do organized construction, that instead the state legislature is basically thumbing their nose at us saying, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't have any right to have your local control over deciding what the densities are going to be and where certain things are going to be built in your locations. What is your plan? What is your plan to be able to work with government leaders and what have you, to work with Sacramento so that we can stop this invasion of our rights to have our own self-determination, and to get some of these laws reversed and so that we can have our community back? What's your plan?
Yep. So, John, everything you said, I agree with 100%. And it just makes me so frustrated that we have a state that is looking to take away our rights as a community, as a neighborhood, with the neighborhood councils, as a city, to be able to determine our own future. So really, really aggravating. As you pointed out, we have the Warner Center 2035 plan. CD3 leads the city in new residential units. So if you're going to force housing upon anybody, don't do it to us. But to answer your question specifically, as frustrated as I am, you get more bees with honey than vinegar. And what we need to do is be able to have a relationship with our legislators in Sacramento, because we don't have a choice. And I know we're going to talk about the Woodland Hills Country Club, so I'll save part of that commentary for that. But we need to be able to work with our legislators in Sacramento, to work with them to not force these laws upon us. The only way we're going to be successful with that, John, is if the people that are on this call, the voters, make it very clear to our state representatives that this is completely unacceptable. Because there's unfortunately nothing that I'd be able to do as city council member, if elected, on my own to be able to change any of that. And I don't want to give false hope. I don't want to blow smoke. It is absolutely critical that our state assembly members hear from the public on just how unhappy they are.
There is a bully pulpit on that one. Barry, where are you on this one? What's your plan to be able to help get us back to where we have our local control and have got control of our community again?
Yeah, so thank you, John. So what I want to say about this is I worked in the state legislature in both houses, and I know that a lot of the reason that the state is imposing the laws that the state has imposed is because the local governments, not just Los Angeles, but throughout California, are not meeting the goals that have been set. Our housing goals, they are referred to as our RENA goals. By October 2029, Los Angeles is supposed to, we are mandated actually to build over 450,000 new housing units. And as of the end of 2024, I don't think the 2025 numbers are available yet, but as of the end of 2024, we only have permitted 17,000 new housing units. So we are woefully short. And that means that by 2029, we are going to get fined by the state. So the way that we work with this and the way that we do this is by working within our city to find places that are acceptable for our communities to do this so that we are meeting our goals, so that we aren't subject to Sacramento's imposing their laws on us and taking away local control. And I just want to add that I'm fortunate to have not only the experience having worked here district-based, but in the legislature, but I'm endorsed by every state legislator who has endorsed in this race, every sitting state legislator who is endorsed in this race and representing the Valley. So I will leverage my relationships and I'll go up to Sacramento if I have to, and I will be the voice for our community and say, this doesn't work. And what we need to do is we need to get involved early. We cannot wait. We cannot wait. If something is being proposed, we need to get involved early.
It seems to me that a lot of that legislation could be excluding the areas that are doing responsible development and let the other ones do something. But this is just a broad sweeping, cookie cutter, let's fit all. Mr. Celona, what's your plan on being able to work with state legislature to get them to give back the control so we can decide what areas are going to have that density that we need to have, and not just have the laws open up to where the developers can decide what the density is going to be?
Yeah, I agree. So, to my esteemed colleagues, I think they've done a good job of rounding things out. And I'll put a bow on this for all of us. And we tend, I find, to kick the can down the road. So the state is forcing our hands on certain things. You can't put your head in the ground when it comes to dealing with housing, when it comes to understanding like, okay, we have to build certain things, but we need to make sure that we're building in the right places. We don't want to be building in fire zones. We don't want to be building where the roads can't take care of it. And at the end of the day, if we're able to start moving a little faster, yes, we have to go up and work with various people. I mean, I've had to work with, oh my gosh, so many different people of different not aligned interests. And we got there because the overall goal was, how do we house people, right? Or what is the project supposed to accomplish? And the team we've put together thus far, and we're still going to keep building, is they're all experts with business negotiations, working with developers, things of that nature. And if we can start to get ahead of this, look, it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes to have these conversations, but as a community, we have to come together to start proposing solutions so that we can keep what the single houses are over here, and we can build where the housing has access to easy mass transportation.
That sort of brings us in, I think, to be talking about what's going on over the golf course at this point. Barry, I want to come to you on starting with this one. First of all, have you met with any of the developers concerning the proposed project on the Woodland Hills Country Club?
I have met with one of them, I believe.
And who is that?
Trying to remember their name. I'll look it up for you. I'm sorry, I don't have the name in handy. It was a while ago.
Under what circumstances did you meet? Was this an organized meeting? Were you invited? Did you invite them?
No, it was not. It was a meeting with their representative, and they were there it was for something else. I think it was for a different project.
I call them, if I may, I call them the expediters. These are the people that are basically representing to get stuff pushed through. So that's who you that's who you met with. Mr. Celona, have you met with any of the developers? Okay, Tim, have you met with any developers?
Yep.
Who have you met with, Tim?
So the expediter you're referring to is Aaron Green, and then the owner of the course is Phil Wilson, and then I believe I met with Jeremy Oglenik, and they don't like me.
How don't they like you?
I wrote a very pointed article that they had a copy of, where I was saying you cannot build this project for a number of reasons, and they had a copy of it, and they didn't like it.
So you actually met with Jeremy and you met with Phil as well?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Under what circumstances you invite them? They invite you.
They invited me to the country club for lunch.
Okay. Very good. Barry, let's come back to you on that one. Are you aware of the present status of what the city is doing concerning the application for the builders at the golf course?
Yeah, on February 17th, the city planning department put out a letter saying that the project is inconsistent with the mixed income housing developments along commercial corridors, the whole AB 2011. And at this point, as filed, it does not qualify for ministerial streamlined processing.
Just an update to you that we now have one from March the 17th as well. That basically indicates a further indication of that. I will let all of you know that perhaps don't know presently, haven't seen this, that they indicated at the conclusion, back up, that they indicated that the application is deemed to be incomplete, inconsistent, and non-compliant. And the process now is placed on hold. The third letter they've sent out to them, at the conclusion of the letter, it indicates that in the event that all of the requested materials, and by the way, this is 167 pages long, with a number of things that have to be check marked and things are being requested to come back, that if those materials are not provided within 60 days of the date of this letter, the department may initiate termination of the case. So be aware that that's what's going on to it. Barry, do you support this project? And if you do, why? If you don't support it, why not? And again, for some background to it, that 2011, AB 2011 provided an exception that allowed this to start up, which has to do with a commercial zone, that if an area has 75 feet to 150 feet road that's next in front of the areas to it, that's considered to be a commercial zone. It was then thought that the area along Canoga would be considered to be a commercial zone, and therefore you can build basically whatever you want without having to go through CEQA, without having to go through any hearings, or you can do it by matter of right. And what's your position on this particular project?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second, John, but I think I got the question. So for me, I'm very concerned about fire safety, and I want to ensure that any projects proposed in any part of our community have a clear plan for fire safety, and I have not seen that yet for this. So, and as I say with all housing projects, we need to make sure that infrastructure goes hand in hand with housing proposals, especially of this magnitude. So
As you see it now, do you support it, or are you against it?
So at this point, I do not have enough information because I have not seen any plans for fire safety, and so that is my big concern. And I want to see where the plans for fire safety are.
Well, right now, there's no plans for the fire safety. So if there's no plans for fire safety, is it your position that you don't want it until they can produce that?
I need to see. Yeah, I need to see the plans for fire safety.
Right now, if I understand correctly, you're against it until they can produce something that indicates that there's fire safety that's as part of that project.
This is where I am right now, and I do believe we need housing in our communities, but I'm very concerned about fire safety.
I just want to be clear that my statement to you is an accurate statement. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm not taking a position yet, but yes, I am very concerned about the fire safety. So yes.
Well, all right. So let's be clear then. So you're not taking a position one way or the other at the present time, or are you taking the position that because you're not seeing a fire prevention issue that you're against it until you do see that? Which of those two are you on?
Until I see a fire prevention plan, I cannot support any project in our community that doesn't have a plan for fire prevention. So
then again, we're parsing words here now.
And I hear what you're saying.
And the other candidates are going to get the same question into it. Are you for it, or are you against it? If you're against it because it hasn't done a fire plan, let us know that. If you're for it, and say,
I'm not crusading.
I don't have any opinion at this point at all. Where are you?
No. I have an opinion, and my opinion is that I am very, very concerned because I do not see a plan for fire safety at this point, and so I am not supporting any projects in our community that don't have a plan for fire safety.
And that would include this particular project as well.
At this point.
Okay, Mr. Sloan, where are you on this particular project?
Hey, dude, you're killing it with my last name. So I stand with the firefighters, guys. It's simple. We should not be fast tracking a project on fire hazard land, period. If they come back with something and the fire department gives us a thumbs up, I will revisit it. But after I got evacuated from the fires, no way. We need a plan. And you know what? That's it.
Have you driven up in this area at all, up in the Woodland Hills area that's south of Ventura up to Mohon?
Oh, quite a bit, yeah.
Okay, then you know how small the streets are and how.
Dude, yeah, this is like the guys are stressed. The fire department is not happy, like already. Like, and when they're stressed, we should be stressed. It's not
I'll come
rocket
back to
science.
another question that kind of follows with I think, some of your background. Tim, where are you on this particular project?
100% against it, and definitely because of the fire issue, but not just that. This project is bypassing the community completely. The community doesn't even have a seat at the table, and that is completely wrong. And so that's what I wrote the article about. I held an event at Woodland Hills Community Church about this. Bob Blumenfield was there and spoke. The community is really, really upset, and rightfully so. Anytime a project is built of any size, and especially this size, the community has a right to be at the table. You don't have the right to lock them out. That's exactly what I told the builders when I had lunch with them, which is why they don't like me. That's not okay. You can't just bypass the neighborhood council. You can't just bypass the city council. And just a quick update. So,
Are the homeowners?
What's that?
Are the homeowners organization?
Or especially the homeowners association.
100%.
But so Bob is currently trying to get the definition of the word vacant changed so that it would apply to the Woodland Hills Country Club, because if the country club is considered vacant land, then they're not allowed to utilize these laws to be able to build. I know Bob is actually, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to Sacramento tomorrow. So there could be an update on this within the next couple of days, hopefully. But John, there were 3 laws that were used to be able to put this country club in motion. So AB 2011 you mentioned, but then there was the law change that allowed Canoga to all of a sudden be considered a commercial thoroughfare, which is baloney. And then there was a law change that made it so that the Woodland Hills Girard Track scenic plan, I'm sure I have some of the verbiage wrong, and one other scenic plan, any plan over 25 years old no longer applies.
That's the Mulholland specific plan, as well as the Girard Track plan. And
right.
Again, you're correct. Anything that was old in that is no longer in force and effect.
So the idea that these 3 laws just so happened to come together at this time, and then literally just a few days later, these plans were submitted, and to tell me that that wasn't done on purpose, it seems like common sense that this was all done at the same time for this plan specifically, and it's not okay.
And let's take the following. I'm going to go back reverse order at this point, and we'll open up you guys for some conclusions. We're a little bit over time here, but we appreciate your timing on this. If you were to be employed by this area to represent us, what is your plan concerning this project and similar types of projects where they're trying to utilize the state laws that are taking away our local control? What is your plan to be able to oppose those, and how would you go about doing that? And I'm looking for specifics now as to what you're looking for. The same question to come to the other 2 as well. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I would fight tooth and nail to make sure that the community always has a seat at the table. I'm absolutely pro-development, but as I said before, Woodland Hills has done a really good job of being pro-development with Warner Center, with leading the city. And so the idea that the state's going to come in and impose what properties are going to happen without the community's input doesn't make any sense to me. And so I'm going to fight tooth and nail. The reality is I don't have the background in state mechanics and the way the laws work. And for that reason, if I get elected, I'm going to be utilizing the staff that is currently within Bob's office, like Elizabeth Nene, who knows the law, and other folks there, and also working with Bob and working with the folks that I have on my team to make sure that I'm uncovering every single rock to work for the community. As I mentioned at the very beginning, the most important thing, this job is not about working with the state to create, apartment buildings and single family homes and single family neighborhoods. This job is about making the quality of life better for the people that live here, and that is it. And that's the lens that I look through with every single thing, including this.
Mr. Barcelona, where are you on this one?
That was awesome. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, no. So I'm with Tim on that idea. And honestly, like, there's such a parent-child relationship with Sacramento where they love to force upon us, the city of Los Angeles, their rules and regulations that bypass things. For me, I plan on doing what I do traditionally, which is finding the experts in the field, working with my local homeowners, working with this association and neighborhood councils, as well as all of local government officials, to start to make recommendations and get ahead of this stuff. A lot of the issues we face tend to become people who don't, or tend to be because people don't want to make the decision. I've been very lucky to have a career where I tend to be decisive, and because we bring the right people in, we're able to make the best decision in the moment. And I think we can build housing where it's safe, where it can actually serve folks who need the help and who don't need to incur the extra costs of cars and insurance, etc. But that starts with decisive leadership.
Barry, no, you're up on this one too. By the way, Barry, I've been accused of cutting you off as opposed to the other ones. If I have done so, I certainly apologize to you and give you as much time as you need to. If there's some issues to go back on that you need to talk about, but where are you on this one as to what your plan would be to work with Sacramento to get back our local control?
Thank you, John. So first, I want to say this isn't the moment for on-the-job training, and I am what I would do with regard to making sure that we retain our local control here is start with public input early on. It's not enough for the public only to have a say now once the project is already on the fast track. We need to start way earlier, and it's my understanding that the council office knew about this a long time ago, like maybe over a year ago, and that's the time before it's fast tracked that we go to that I would go to the community and say, come on, let's talk about this. Is this going to work for our community? No. Okay, let's think about why, and let's have those conversations way earlier on, so we're not in the situation that we were in this past fall or this past Thanksgiving when we found out about this for the first time, and then we were all scrambling to figure out how we are going to stop this project now because it's already on the fast track. So that's the thing I think was the first mistake. And so my plan is, as soon as I hear about something happening, and it's my job as the council member to know what's happening in our community. So as soon as I hear about a proposal, I want to bring the voices of our communities, of our neighborhood leaders in and say, what is not being thought of? And is this going to work? Clearly, this will or will not work in this community because of these reasons that we've talked about. And so these are the things that I want to start way before. And then when we talk about local control, it's going to Sacramento and it's saying, this is not working. There's not a one size fits all approach that works here. And that is the problem when we talk about this, what the laws that Sacramento imposes. Sacramento imposes statewide laws. The laws don't have cutouts and carve outs for every single jurisdiction. And so for us, we are the biggest municipality here and it's going to impact us more than any other. So we need to have a voice in Sacramento. So I would be part of a delegation that would go up there, as I mentioned, and have those conversations. And I would show up at their offices here and have those conversations and bring the community leaders like yourself into these conversations to say, this is what our community feels and this is what our community wants and we can't do this. So I'm very much about elevating our community voices, bringing them in way earlier and going to the source and talking to Sacramento and making sure also that we are, again, I said the way earlier to not have Sacramento impose those one size fits all laws on us is to make sure that we are identifying places in our community. So I would work together with neighborhood leaders such as yourselves to say, this isn't going to work in this community, but where could this work? And where could we identify places so that we're not getting slapped with the RENA fines and the fines from the state government because we're not meeting our RENA goals. So those would be what I would do.
I think you're waving your hand for something. You wanted to comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's important. I do want to point out the council office did not know about this a year prior. What happened a year prior is the developers approached the Councilman Blumenfield and he said, no, you can't come directly to me. You have to go through the process. You have to go to neighborhood council. You have to go through the typical process that any builder would go through. That was the entirety of the conversation. And what happened is when these new state laws got passed, it allowed them to be able to file the paperwork. I don't know if it was 8 days later or 13 days later, somewhere in that ballpark. That's what happened. It wasn't a situation where the community had the ability to talk about it beforehand. And how could they have when the laws that are being used to build this were just passed a week or two before they actually filed the paperwork?
Yeah, I think just for my understanding to it, that we met with the developers before COVID and told them they're going to have to go through the process. It's going to take them years. It can be very expensive, what have you. My understanding is there was laws that were passed by the state legislature in October, and in November, just before Thanksgiving, the applications were then applied at that point in time under the new laws to it at that stage. So we've been going for a long time with this. I think it's appropriate to go and let you all talk for a bit about where you are. Give me a summary of what things are going on in this campaign. Why you're the best ones here. Again, we're going to elect one of you. One of you is going to get the job, okay? And it's an expensive one, and it's going to take a lot of responsibility. And we're going to stay on you about stuff that's going to go on. And after this discussion, some of you may decide you might want to drop out and not do it. I don't know. I hope not. But anyway, let's start. We'll go in back order. Barry, I'll give you first, and Chris. Mr. Celona second, and then Tim will finish up with you if that's all right. Does anybody have any objection to that order? Barry, you've got the floor. Go ahead and give us your reasons why it should be you and why you want the job and what you think you're going to be able to do to be able to justify the $280,000 a year and potentially a contract for 4 years and maybe a contract for 12 years. Let's hear.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Well, I'll say this, I don't do it for the salary. I've done this work for 20 years, and I do it because I love it and because I love our community, and I will always fight for our community. I said earlier that I believe our community needs to have a voice in government, and what I've done and what I know how to do is make sure that we do have a voice. And I believe that showing up is more than just lip service. I have a 20-year track record of making positive change in our community, and I will roll up my sleeves and do the hard work. I have a clear, strong path to victory that includes strong fundraising, a coalition of endorsements, and deep community relationships developed over 20 years in public service. And I hope that you'll check out my website at Barri, BARRI, 4FOR, thevalley.com, which shares a little bit more about my support and a little bit more about me and my background. But I want to say to everyone here that I will listen, as I've always done, and bring all voices to the table to achieve the best possible outcomes for our community and for the West Valley. And I also want to say that serving with integrity and ethical leadership is non-negotiable for me. Accountability, ethics are non-negotiable. And I was proud to work on Measure G, as I referenced earlier, at the county. And I will bring, and Measure G strengthens, transparency and ethics in government. And I look forward to bringing that same commitment to City Hall, to strengthening transparency and ethics in government. And I'm very committed to that. Anybody who knows me knows that that's very important to me. And lastly, I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one. I'll be a champion for our community. I'll be our voice to fight for the Valley's fair share of resources, which is what I've done and what I will always continue to do for our community. And I will always be accessible and communicate with our community. And I believe in that. I think that's where good governance happens. That's the crux of good governance, and I believe in that wholeheartedly. So I just ask that everybody please vote. The election day is June 2nd, and ballots will hit your mailboxes May 2nd, and I really ask you to please vote, and I would love your support, and please reach out to me.
Mr. Celona, you're up.
Thank you. So first of all, good evening, everyone. I'm going to probably run upstairs and go change my kids and tuck them in real quick after this. LA is a special city. It's a place that, for me, it's always been a place of just dreams and imagination. And somewhere along the way, that got lost, and we have issues across the board. I'm an anti-corruption guy. I love accountability. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm big on transparency. If you need to look me up, it's CR Celona, like Bar Celona without the bar.com, or just Google or ask your chat or any AI. And at the end of the day, guys, we need to understand what's working and what's not working. Your tax dollars and the days of penalizing you, the taxpayer, and letting everyone else go, whether you've got a restaurant, whether you have a single family home, et cetera, we need someone who can't be bought. We need someone who's not in this system. I've already done an LA City first by bringing Mr. Rawlings into our campaign because it's what's best for the city. Because if we bring back jobs, and ask your neighbor, you don't have to ask them about CR Celona, but ask them about, are you doing okay? Is this working for you? Like, do you feel like things are good in Los Angeles? And if they are, you got the people to vote for it, the left and the right of me, or whichever side they're on. But I plan on bringing back entertainment, incentivizing new jobs, supporting my firefighters, being smart about how we use our police, supporting them as well, and also being mindful about our green spaces and affordability, because you know what? Every one of us on this line was a teenager, was a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old. I'm 46 now, in case you're wondering. Everyone seems to think I'm much younger. Moisturize. That's a joke. Mr. Walker thought you smile. There we go. And so at the end of the day, guys, I can't be bought because I'm here because I'm dad. I represent dad to a whole generation of young people, and I want to grow into a role model. And here's the best part. Each one of us should have a personal flywheel, and I'll wrap this up quickly for you. The better we do in our job, the better leader we become, the better parent, the better person you can become, the better business person. That makes the next step, the better leader, the better person. And that energy is contagious. You've seen it with my campaign. And at the end of the day, You deserve to know where the money goes, and we should not be going after our controller and people that want transparency. Okay. So my promise to you is 20 years. I will go wherever it takes us. I will not stop working for everyone. And just like when we were campaigning and people told me I couldn't do it, we walked 30 miles and then 3,000 people. You guys are my favorite thing because it feels like I'm in college. So thank you for the opportunity. It's CR Celona on any social platform you want. And we're doing an ice cream social, free ice cream 2 to 4. I'll follow up shortly with where it is.
Tim, you're on.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here tonight and for staying up late. And thank you, John, for putting in. I know this was a lot of work to put all the questions together. So thank you to everybody. So for me, Celona mentioned the flywheel, and that's a business term for a business that's doing well and has pieces that sort of keep things perpetuating in a positive fashion. LA has what's called a doom loop. We're in a tough situation because we have services that are disappearing because we don't have the finances to support them. And that's a problem because we have what is going to be thousands of these lawsuits connected to the fire that are going to put LA in a pretty bad spot financially. And so we need serious people that have business experience, that have experience navigating through financial issues and understanding the finances of a city to be able to guide us out of this. But I will say, New York 30 years ago was in way worse shape than we are. They were in worse shape financially. They had much higher crime. And what they did was they started focusing on what's called the broken window theory, which is paying attention to the small things, picking up trash, covering up graffiti. That led to lower petty crime, which led to lower major crime. That is one of my core beliefs. And I absolutely believe that we can do this. We're going to be looking at a very, very exciting next several years in the city with the Super Bowl and the Olympics, the World Cup coming up, right around the corner. And I think there's a really great opportunity for us to shine when it comes to really, putting ourselves on display for the rest of the world. The one thing that I want to stress is LA is a city that just doesn't plan past tomorrow. We're the only major city we're the only big city without a major long-term infrastructure program. We're a city that doesn't make investments where we need to make investments. And that's where, for me, the investment into youth is something that is absolutely critical. Investment into small business is absolutely critical, because if we're not serious about planting seeds that are going to bear fruit 5 or 10 years in the future, we're gonna be in the same situation 5 or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now. We'll be having the same conversation, and that's exactly what I want to avoid. I think that our city is capable of being the world-class city that it is, and we need someone who has experience navigating an organization and leading people and being able to get things done from scratch, something that's different than what we've done before, and someone that doesn't come from the usual mold, somebody that speaks up for the businesses in our community and the folks that have been in their community their entire lives and gone to public school and gone to community college, and people like myself that are going to be here forever, no matter what happens. I hope my kids stay here forever. And this is just a really exciting opportunity. And the last thing I'll leave you with, as I mentioned before, the only reason I'm running for this job is to make life better for the people that live here. And that is something that motivates me every single day. That is the only reason that I'm doing this. That's something that excites me. And I hope that I'm successful. And as I always say, no matter what folks do, just please make sure that you vote on June 2nd, not just for this race, but there's some really important races, obviously, with the city controller and the mayor and a number of other positions that are going to chart the future of the city. And just really important to get out there. So thank you again for everybody for taking the time. And websites, timgaspar.com, and I'll buy you ice cream. You call me, I'll buy you ice cream. It's all good.
Well, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mr. Celona. Thank you, Barry, for your time coming into this evening, for stepping into the arena to get some boxing matches going on here. But you've taken no faults going at this point in time. Maybe a few bruises here and there that I've gotten, but more than anything else. But we appreciate your time to come in here. Appreciate your guts for running for office at this stage. We hope that whoever is elected, whoever gets this job, will do us well and will understand that we need an advocate. We need a strong advocate that's going to be able to help our community to do the things that we need to have done. It's not just a political position to be able to enjoy the accolades that you will get from that, but rather hard work, difficult work, and the second largest city that has a lot of things going on with people that are going in different directions. We thank you for the extra time here. We thank the participants that have been sitting with us for a long period of time at this stage. I've tried to get all the questions that were there. We had no hands that were raised during the time, but we had some comment questions come in, and I hope that we've gotten them answered, if not directly, at least indirectly at that point. We appreciate that. Appreciate all the people that have been here for it. Remember the Woodland Hills Homeowners Organization. We need your membership. It's helpful to us and helpful for the work we're doing in the community. We continue to work on that. We'll always continue to work on it, continue to watch all these projects going on, and we'll continue to work with our legislators, whether it be council members or people up in Sacramento or people in Washington, D.C. We need to work with you, and you need to work with us, because we're trying to make sure that we're going to get the best we possibly can. We want a community to be the best, and that's really the bottom line, and that's what this is all about. So we thank you all. Thank you all very much to it. We wish you the best on your campaigns. May Godspeed be with you, and may all of you have just a blessed night tonight. And thank you so much. We'll say goodnight to you. Take care.
Thank you,
Yeah,
John.
thank you, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you,
good night.
everybody.
God bless.
Thank you.